On retreat once, one of our spiritual directors said to us, "The worst sin," he said, "our greatest weakness, the biggest misery in our life is not to have faith, to not believe, to not have hope." He said it is the greatest sin and weakness and our biggest cause of misery, because if we don't believe, how are we going to receive the Father's gift of love and mercy? If you don't believe that God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son to suffer and die and redeem us, to wash us clean of the stain of our sinfulness, who takes away our death and brings us hope and newness of life, that if you don't believe, how is all that possible? It's not that it didn't happen, is that you won't let it happen because you simply choose not to believe. You know, when Jesus came to preach the good news that the Father sent, to say the Father is sending you a Redeemer, a healer, an advocate, a Messiah, that when Jesus went to proclaim the good news of his mission, when he said, "It has been fulfilled in your hearing, that I've come to bring glad tidings to the poor. I've come to bring sight to the blind, to let the deaf hear and the mute speak." He says, "I've come to heal the brokenhearted. I've come to liberate the oppressed and to bring freedom to captives." And they wouldn't believe. And he said that he could do no miracles there, not because it was physically impossible for God, but even if God transformed water into wine, if he even healed somebody who was born with sight and issues of blindness, when he brought people who are unable to hear for the first time, that if you don't have faith, if you don't have hope, if you don't have trust, if you don't believe, then what difference does it make? Even if God does it, you won't believe. So it's as if he didn't do it in the first place. So many people ask for signs, one sign after another. And Jesus did one miracle, one great mighty work, one deed after another. And they still chose not to believe. Think about that for a moment. That spiritual director, that priest said, the worst sin of them all, our greatest weakness, the biggest misery in our lives, the cause of misery, is we choose not to believe that the Father is in the Son and the Son is in the Father, and that now the Son is in us and now the Father is in us. That to choose not to believe in the sacraments, in Scripture, in the Eucharist, in the Mass, if you choose not to believe, how will you obtain God's grace to live in eternal freedom, in the glorious freedom of the children of God? If you don't believe, how is God ever going to bless you in the communion of the saints? That if you don't believe, when we say, "Lord, I am not worthy, but say the word and my soul shall be healed," if you don't believe, how are you going to be healed? And if you don't believe that no one has greater love than to lay down one's life for a friend, how are you going to partake in God's infinite love and divine mercy and in his pardon and his peace? You see, it's not that God didn't do all those things for us. It's just we choose not to believe.